Ashwin, it's really nice to meet you. We're creating this lights efficient magazine about smart lighting and well, lighting industry in general, right? So with a focus on smart lighting, but studying lighting industry as a whole. So today I would just like to have a small interview with you as on how do you see the world of lighting? Where is it going? What do you feel is going to be the next big thing? Things like that, right?
Hi.
All right, so first of all, ion lighting distribution. Could you tell us a little bit more what do you guys do and why did you decide to do lighting?
So ion lighting is one of the largest lighting distributors in the New England region.
All right.
So between the states of Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. And the reason we got into lighting is because the owners of the company, they were in this industry for like 20 plus years, and typical electrical distributors don't know much about lighting, and they sort of pass on the job to the lighting reps more than just trying to do it themselves.
Right.
And we found that there was this niche for people that understood and knew lighting. And so we were provide this service to companies, businesses, and designers.
Okay, that's really interesting. I actually saw that you guys have a huge product line there, right? Everything.
Yeah, we have about 2,000 products, I think, more.
Right.
More than 2,000.
That's a lot. That's a lot of it. And I see most of it lies within LED lighting, although you still guys have some halogen and other things, right?
No, we strictly do LEDs.
Okay.
One or two halogen products that we have, honestly, is just because of like a few legacy customers that we have,
right?
Like universities and stuff. They have like a few things here and there,
right?
Like Dunkin' Donuts and stuff. I don't know why.
Okay, okay, and it's kind of like impossible to convince them to switch, right?
Yeah, if someone isn't LED, we try to make them go LED as much as possible. In this first quarter of 2021, we have helped save in each state approximately 8,000 acres worth of forest land.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, so that's
what lighting is supposed to do there.
Exactly, yeah. So that's why we're trying to go into as efficient lighting programs and products. It's one of our like main goals.
Right, right. So as I understand, I also read on your website that it seems like you work with some government-related programs that are right, that are helping people.
We are partnered with the state utility programs. So Eversource, Unitel, National Grid, they partner with us and other distributors so that we can help reduce the energy consumption on the grid.
And,
so that's kind of how I know this metric of how much energy we're saving and what the carbon dioxide footprint kind of is like. And so we're the largest partner in New Hampshire, the second largest in Connecticut, and the top 5 in Mass.
That's actually really impressive. I see there are quite a few smart lighting products there, like smart light bulbs and things like that. What is the percentage of smart lighting to normal lighting products?
You mean in terms of selling?
Yeah, yeah.
I would say almost fringe, less than 1%.
Right. So it's very little, right?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And what do you think is the reason for that? Like,
there's multiple reasons for this, and this is actually something that I addressed with the state about a week ago. Mm-hmm. So good that you brought this up, because it's something that I actually did a lot of research on. So one of the main issues with any technology, it doesn't have to be in lighting. It's like if you have cars that have regular suspensions, and then they went from regular suspensions to air suspension.
Right.
Now, air suspension gives you a better ride, but most likely the mechanic that you've been using for 15 years can't work on it. And so a lot of people are hesitant to switch over to air suspension because of the maintenance issues related to that.
Right.
And the lack of knowledge surrounding it and the ease of use. Because in a regular suspension, you're not thinking twice about it. With an air suspension, you got to sometimes, play with the gauge a little bit and kind of keep yourself apt for what terrain you're driving over. And that's the same philosophy with lighting, is that the people installing these commercial grade lights aren't you and me, it's the electricians.
Right.
And the people maintaining it are also the electricians or the facility managers. Both of these groups of people typically got into the industry before smart lighting became a thing.
Right.
So most of the people installing it and maintaining it do not understand this. And so they charge more to figure it out and install it. And then the customer is like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. And then there's the concept of, what if I can't work this contraption and I can't get the light when I want the light? So these are two fears that need to be addressed by both the manufacturers as well as the utility programs to bring lighting, to bring smart lighting into this world. I'm a big proponent for smart lighting. I love it. I think that's where this industry should go.
Right.
But these are the shortcomings.
Yeah, I agree with you. As a matter of fact, we've been dealing with smart lighting as well for quite a while. And man, there are multiple issues there, just starting with maintenance, as you mentioned, installation, and as well as interoperability and, the ability of people just to use it without any headache, without things getting suddenly disconnected for no reason or something like that. So I guess since smart lighting has not become a really old industry yet, it hasn't really matured. So, old news that were like really out there 5 years ago are not really relevant now, but it's still in the minds of people. So, well, it's really hard to overcome.
Yep. Another thing is that lighting typically is sold as a commodity item.
Right.
And smart lighting is not commodity. Smart lighting is more luxury.
It is as well.
And I mean, from you and my perspective, we might see it as, no, it's not really a luxury. It's something that will help your effectivity, and it can be treated like a commodity item, but that's the gap. You and me are not the ones purchasing it. We're the one producing and selling it. So the consumer needs to see that it's not just a commodity item. It is, it's not just a luxury item. It is part of a commodity item, and it can help you with your daily productivity.
Exactly.
So that's a big shift.
It is, and it's actually really hard to overcome, especially when it comes for more of retail clients. Right. So, are you actually using smart lighting yourself, like in your daily life?
I do have one smart bulb in my house.
Okay.
And here's why I do not have more, because the damn thing doesn't work half the time.
Okay, fair enough.
I've and I've studied products through the world. There's manufacturers from China, Vietnam, different parts of Europe that reach out to me pretty often, through LinkedIn, through emails. I don't even know how they get my email sometimes, but most of the home residential smart lighting products, they work on 2.5 gigahertz Wi-Fi.
Right.
And most homes in the US, especially the ones who are even considering smart lighting, work on 5G.
Right.
That itself is your issue.
So there you go. Yeah. That's the very first one. That makes sense. Have you ever bumped into Bluetooth connected lighting?
I have.
What's your opinion on it?
It's pretty good for commercial grade systems. So if you have like if you have like 5 stories and you kind of want to have everything mesh with each other. And so I would recommend Bluetooth devices to people who have their own local facility manager.
I totally agree with you on that.
Premise, and you have five floors of an office space that's all interconnected.
Yeah.
And you don't want to run into an issue and then nobody knows where to go with it.
Yeah. Actually, that's I agree with that. Bluetooth connected lighting makes perfect sense for commercial setups. Not so much for home, maybe, because.
Yeah, I just don't think it's the right.
Yeah. Maybe for home Wi-Fi or even Zigbee or Z-Wave or something like that is better than that.
I think anybody. So amongst my friends who aren't, in the world of lighting, the smart lighting, according to them, is stuff that listens to their voice or or tunes in with Alexa or something of that sort.
Right.
That makes more sense on a residential thing. And also on a company perspective, we don't sell to residential customers.
Okay, I see. That's interesting. How do you see the world of lighting changing in about 5 to 10 years perspective? I mean, the reason I'm asking that is because in the past decade, we have seen a lot of changes. We have seen a lot of new things coming out, right? Everything has been evolving really fast. And it's really interesting where is it going, because right now, lighting has started to become a service, not just a commodity, as you mentioned, right? Or not just a luxury, as some of the consumers might think. So where do you think it is going right now?
I would say that the typical lighting industry, right? The typical,
right.
And I'm just talking for the US market.
Right.
The typical lighting industry or the typical electrical distribution industry worked manufacturer, rep, distributor, customer.
Right.
And now that's changing because customers realize they can go direct.
Okay.
And so your feedback loop is being disturbed, because if there was an issue with the light before, you would go back to the distributor would kind of give you a replacement, and then they would go to the rep and say, hey, this was the issue. The rep would go to the manufacturer and then give a replacement, and so on and so forth.
Right.
But now if you have a complicated light, say for example, a grow light, and we have some customers that are trying to use horticultural lights.
Mm-hmm.
Now the technical aspects of that are kind of complicated. So would the customer be benefited coming back to us, or would they be benefited going directly to the manufacturer and talking to them?
Mm-hmm.
So in many instances, they go to the manufacturer and talk to them. Whereas what we recommend is you come talk to us, because the manufacturer is not going to deal with one light, because they're selling in hundreds of thousands.
Obviously.
But this is not something a customer cares about, right? Because the customer is like, I bought the light, I need the service. And so I think what's happening over here, or what's going to happen in the future of lighting, is that to switch it from a commodity market to more of a utility market, I'm not saying luxury, but a utility market.
Right.
There needs to be more training amongst the contractors, because they're the ones installing it. And there's going to be a decentralization in terms of who's holding the product.
Right.
So instead of the manufacturers holding a large portion, or instead of the distributors holding a large portion, it's going to be in transit a lot more.
Right.
So I think that those are the changes that are going to come. So the supply chain and training are the two biggest. Because if you effectively do your supply chain properly, you can reduce the price of your product by 20%.
At the very least, I think.
At the very least, exactly.
Yeah.
On a conservative estimate.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually see, because we're located here in China, right? And I see a lot of dynamics going on, that a lot of factories here in China are now switching their focus from OEM manufacturing, as in manufacturing for some brand outside China, for example, to starting their own brands, starting selling on Amazon directly. And I mean, Amazon is only one of the examples. Like, everybody starts going with their own Shopify stores and so on and so forth. So this supply chain is getting more straightened out, right? However, it's interesting because as I was doing lighting business myself at some point, I think the biggest issue we faced was the fact that the client wanted the service to be done here now. They did not want to know who is the manufacturer, who is what. Like, I bought it here, something has happened, I'm bringing it back to you, fix it, like this kind of thing. So I'm actually curious how it's going to be solved, because there's still communication issue that has to be addressed, right? Because the manufacturers are still here, they're still thinking in terms of their paradigm. Let's put it that way. And the contractors or electricians in the US, they probably have a very different perspective on that. So it's kind of hard to expect forecast where is it actually going to go on from here.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially with some Chinese companies that we deal with, manufacturers. One big issue, and I mean, they all want to expand more into the US. They know that any large order over here is a few $100,000.
Yeah.
At the very minimum. But the issue is they don't bring the product to America how Americans want to use it. There's a concept of design thinking. Exactly. If you're familiar with it. So the design thinking process kind of wants the customer to be centric in the process of using the product.
Yeah.
And that's where Chinese manufacturers kind of lose it, I believe, because they don't do design thinking from a customer's perspective. They do it from a manufacturer's perspective.
Exactly.
What reduces manufacturing costs? How can they cheap out on certain things that they don't think are the most important for that product?
Yeah.
Whereas those value adders are what sells in the US, because it's not a developing country, it's a developed country.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a huge point. You know, if you're working with this company that you are, I think that, you know, that's something that you guys could focus on. And in fact, that's something that Sean Callahan, who's the owner of the company, he and I had discussed, like perhaps even consulting for a few manufacturers in China, so that we can kind of provide them with our expertise of telling them, hey, using these design thinking principles, you should be marketing, labeling, bringing out your product in this fashion, and that would give you higher success over here.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. Because at the moment, most of the products you see on the market, regardless where you look at, they just look the same. So in the end, the client is just forced to choose between the absolutely same looking products within very different price range. And for most people, things like CRI or whatever, they just don't make any sense, you know. So they just go for the cheapest thing. Chances are they will not be very happy with it, and they will just keep switching and so on and so forth. Everybody knows that story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Especially the market culture difference, you know, in Asia, East Asia, people are more spec driven.
Right.
And in large commercial enterprises, like if you were going to go and sell to like a hospital or like an airport, yeah, the facility manager, the architect would be spec driven. But for most businesses, they're not spec driven; they're usability driven.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big point for manufacturers to note.
Absolutely, usability and how fast the return on investment actually comes. Because
and no Chinese writing.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, that's one big thing.
We're gonna stop selling on the website, actually.
Oh, really? So are you going mostly offline?
Yeah.
Really?
Like I said, most of our sales is commercial enterprises, and commercial enterprises don't buy online.
Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Of course, you need to send the people there and check it out. So
the web is just a presence, so that, you know, just in case somebody who has purchased from us wants to just go back and see the spec on a product or I think that's really just all that is.
I see. How is that actually?
We do have sales. We do have sales on it, but it's not what we focus on.
Okay, I see. How does that actually work right now in the US in the times of COVID? Has lockdowns and stuff like that? Yeah, like on sales for, you know, like offline sales.
I mean, everything took a dip for like a couple of months, but since then it's been you know,
getting better, right?
Back to normal. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. That's really good. Because well, there's a lot of stuff going on in the news, so just wanted to ask it firsthand. How is it actually?
Yeah, media can spin things. Media can spin things quite differently. It's pretty good over here right now.
There is a couple more things I wanted to ask. Just you know, off the top of my head, as a lighting professional, let's say, what do you think, like, the industry is lacking now, and what could be a solution or a series of solutions that could help people maybe change their mind about it a little bit and start switching to more energy efficient lighting faster, or at a more, just look at it with a more open mind, let's say?
Education would be number one.
Right.
Really, how you can educate is two ways. You can either educate on a technical basis through you know, letting kids understand the benefits of lighting and kind of bringing it into curriculum, and because it really is impactful. I know the effects of it. And the second is to get a brand ambassador.
Right.
If you can get a brand ambassador, then you don't have to go the schooling way, because if you have a brand ambassador who is considered publicly as a smart individual,
right,
I think that would work, especially in America.
Absolutely, yeah. That's people always want to see someone they relate to, right? And
Yeah.
that way that drives the decision-making process.
Drives the demand. Yeah. Right now
Yeah.
you said it, like all these lights look the same. They're generic. You can't distinguish one name from the other. So if you have
Yeah.
a brand ambassador, a brand, then people will come asking for your product.
Is there anything you would like to ask me by any chance?
Um, yeah, I mean, this is pretty interesting. I always welcome anybody to share knowledge. You know, I like hearing what's going on. I'm really curious about anything and everything. So just to know a little bit of what's going on in China with you guys and what you're planning on and how that market is progressing. Because I'm in touch with a few manufacturers constantly in China, and you know, it's good to know how a base of the industry is moving. If they're considering moving to smart lighting, then I know that the cost of smart lighting is going to fall pretty quickly.
It should. It should. As a matter of fact, you know, there's a lot of factors working in, you know, in that favor. More and more manufacturers are getting on board. Right now, the Bluetooth Special Interest Group and other, you know, protocol providers and protocol governing groups are currently working really hard to make the solutions not only cheaper, but more easily usable and applicable, you know, in terms of installation, in terms of initial, you know, setup. So I think that is actually going to bring us quite fruitful future in terms of, you know, making smart lighting, well, lighting in general, but smart lighting as well, because that is now the thing that kind of needs more attention, right? So I think that will make smart lighting A, more affordable, B, easier to use, and the perception will change, most importantly. Because at the moment, as we said, the perception of it is A, something expensive, B, something hard to use, something that always breaks down. As you said, you have one light bulb and it just doesn't work. Well,
yeah.
So yeah, we really need that combined effort to make it next big step.
True.
Yeah. All right, then. Thank you very much for joining us, and hope you have a great day there.